Despite the fact that artificial intelligence invokes fear in most of us, it is benefiting us in numerous ways. AI in healthcare is revolutionizing the medical industry by providing a helping hand. Hi everyone, I'm Edureka from Edureka and I welcome you to this session on AI in healthcare. In this session, we'll discuss the different ways in which artificial intelligence is impacting the healthcare domain. So let me begin by discussing the agenda with you. We're going to begin the session by understanding what exactly artificial intelligence is. We're going to move on and understand how artificial intelligence is used in healthcare. And we're going to look at a couple of use cases where we'll understand how AI is implemented in real-world examples. After that, we'll look at what exactly machine learning is and what deep learning is. And we'll end the session by performing a demo in Python. We'll be using deep learning concepts like neural networks in order to solve a real world problem. So let's move on and take a look at our first topic. Now, before I get started with what exactly artificial intelligence is, make sure that you subscribe to Edureka YouTube channel in order to stay updated about the latest and the most trending technologies. So what exactly is artificial intelligence? Now, artificial intelligence is the development of computer systems that are capable of performing tasks that normally require human intelligence. Tasks such as decision making, object detection, solving complex problems, and so on. The four main benefits of artificial intelligence is that it gives us predictions with an increased level of accuracy. It helps us in decision making processes. It helps us solve complex problems, and it performs high level computations that will take days for a human to solve. Artificial intelligence is something that makes our lives easier by performing high-level computations and solving complex problems. This is a simple definition of what exactly artificial intelligence is. Now let's move on and discuss artificial intelligence in the healthcare domain. Now, since the introduction of artificial intelligence in the 1950s, it has been impacting various domains including marketing, finance, the gaming industry, and even the musical arts. However, the largest impact of artificial intelligence is been in the field of healthcare. Now, according to the latest report of PwC, artificial intelligence will contribute an additional 15.7 trillion to the world economy by 2030, and the greatest impact will be in the field of healthcare. So we know that healthcare is getting more importance or is using artificial intelligence in a more advanced manner. Now, what has led to the sudden importance of AI in the healthcare industry? What do you think is the reason behind the sudden growth of artificial intelligence in the healthcare industry? Let me narrow it down for you. There are two major points which have made AI so impactful in the field of healthcare. The first reason is high availability of medical data. Now, all of us have tons and tons of medical data in the form of medical history. Whenever we go to any hospitals, our history is written down in accounts. So basically, with the availability of data, implementing artificial intelligence becomes much easier. The AI is based on technologies such as deep learning and machine learning, which require tons and tons of data. So with the availability of data, it became easier to implement, or it became easier to use artificial intelligence in the healthcare industry. Another important reason that led to the development of AI in healthcare is the introduction of complex algorithms. Now, what happens in machine learning is not capable of handling high dimensional data. And particularly the medical data that we have or healthcare data that we have is of very high dimension in character. The data is very vast. There are thousands and thousands of attributes. Now, for us, in order to process and analyze data of this dimension is hard to do with machine learning. But as soon as deep learning and neural networks was introduced, this became much easier because deep learning and neural networks basically focus on solving complex problems that involve high dimensional data. So the development of deep learning and neural networks also played a major role in the impact of AI in healthcare. So I hope all of you understood why artificial intelligence is impacting the healthcare industry in such a huge manner. Now let's move on and look at a couple of use cases of artificial intelligence in healthcare. So AI is actually benefiting healthcare organizations by implementing cognitive technology in order to unwind a huge amount of medical records and in order to perform any power diagnosis. Take for example Nuance. Nuance is a production service provider that uses artificial intelligence and machine learning in order to prescient or in order to predict the intent of a particular user. By implementing neurons in an organization's system or in an organization's workflow, you can develop a personalized user experience that allows a company to make better decisions and better actions that enhances the customer's experience, and overall it'll just benefit the organization. So Nuance basically helps in storing, collecting, and reformatting data in order to provide faster and a more consistent access to all the data so that any further analysis or any diagnosis can be performed. Now, let me tell you a few key features about Nuance. So first is service acceleration. Now, Nuance suggests the best next step that needs to be taken so that the customer's needs are met. It basically derives useful insights so that you can improve customer retention. It accelerates all your services. Another feature is call deflection. So it minimizes the volume of inbound calls and lowers the expenses by anticipating the customer's intent and diverting the customer to other online engagements. Churn reduction. So basically by using machine learning and natural language processing, it can predict the behavior of leads that may be close to invalidating or canceling their service based on their history or their searches, sentiments, and so on. So it basically understands the customers that are trying to cancel out their service, and it takes appropriate actions in order to avoid any cancellations. So it basically studies the patterns and the behavioral trends of each and every customer. It also automates tedious tasks. Then, of course, it helps in revenue generation, right? It increases the amount of revenue that a company or an organization can get by predicting the behavior of patterns and therefore taking relevant actions. It is also very assistive and it automates all the tedious tasks. So it basically gets rid of the monotonous task of calling customers, and it basically implements automated systems that will send notifications via SMS or email and uses AI-based chatbots that make things much simpler. So that was all about how Nuance uses artificial intelligence in managing medical data and any healthcare history records. Next use case is artificial intelligence in medical diagnosis. Now, medical imaging and diagnosis powered by AI should witness more than 40% growth to surpass 2.5 billion US dollars by 2024. Now, this was something that was found in the Global Market Insights. So, with the help of neural networks and deep learning models, artificial intelligence is actually revolutionizing the image diagnosis field in medicine. One major application of AI in medical diagnosis is the MRI scans. AI has taken over the complex analysis of MRI scans and it has made it a much simpler process. So MRI scans are actually the most difficult to analyze because of the amount of information that they contain. Normal MRI analysis will take about several hours. It will take about 4-5 hours. It can take between 2 to 7 hours also. And any researcher that is trying to formulate an outcome or is trying to get the results from these large data sets, they have to wait for hours for a computer to generate these scans. Now, the solution here is clearly deep learning. So, like I mentioned earlier, large and complex data sets can be analyzed with the help of neural networks. And this is exactly what a team of researchers implemented in MIT. Right? They developed a neural network called voxel morph that was trained on a data set of approximately 7,000 MRI scans. So how a neural network functions is it functions by inputting the data at one end. So you just give an input at one end of the neural network, and this input will undergo transformation throughout the network until the final desired output is formed. So neural networks work on the principle of weights and bias. Now, if you want to learn more about neural networks and deep learning, I'll leave a link in the description section. You all can check out that content on deep learning. So the end result of this was that voxel morph succeeded in beating conventional MRI analysis methods. The neural network took seconds to perform MRI analysis, the same analysis that will take about hours for a conventional MRI program. So you can clearly see there's a huge difference when you implement AI-based technologies like deep learning and neural networks. So that's how artificial intelligence is used in medical diagnosis. Now let's understand how artificial intelligence has helped in detecting diseases at an earlier stage. So actually, artificial intelligence has played a very important role in the early predictions of medical conditions such as heart attacks. There are many AI-based wearable health trackers that are being developed to monitor the health of a person and display any warnings when the device collects something unusual or something unlikely. Examples of such wearables include Fitbit, Apple Watch, and many others. Now, like they say, precaution is always better than cure. I think this was the motto behind the latest release of the Apple Watch. Apple used artificial intelligence in order to build a watch that monitors an individual's health. This watch will basically collect data like the person's heart rate, sleep cycle, breathing rate, activity level, blood pressure, and so on. And it keeps a record of all of these measures 24/7. So all you have to do is you have to wear the watch, and all of this data is automatically collected by the watch. So now that you've collected data, the next step in machine learning is processing, analyzing, and making predictions from data. So this collected data is processed and it's analyzed by using machine learning and deep learning algorithms so that you can build a model that predicts the risk of a heart attack. So with the help of data, you're going to predict whether a person has chances of getting a heart attack or not. Now, before I move on to the next slide, I want to mention a story about how Apple Watch actually saved a person's life. Right, there was this person known as Scott Killen, and he suddenly had a small heart attack. And his life was saved by this Apple Watch because it gave repetitive warnings to him regarding his blood pressure. I think his blood pressure or his heart rate had increased and he was about to get a heart attack. But his life was saved because he received an immediate notification from his Apple Watch, which showed that his heart rate was increasing at a drastic pace. So I stated this example because a lot of us believe that artificial intelligence is a threat to humankind. Now, it is only a threat if you use it as a weapon. But if you use it as a solution, it can help and save so many lives and millions of dollars. So now let's move on and understand how artificial intelligence is used in medical assistance. Now, as the need for medical assistance has grown, the development of artificial intelligence-based virtual nurses has increased. According to a recent survey, virtual nursing assistance corresponds to the maximum near-term value of 20 billion US dollars by 2027. Now that's a huge amount of money, right? $20 billion by the end of 2027. A virtual nurse named Sensely is implementing natural language processing, speech recognition, machine learning, and wireless integration with medical devices such as blood pressure cuffs in order to provide medical assistance to patients. Basically a nurse, but it's not physically present, it's just virtually present for you. So Sensely basically helps in self-care. It provides clinical advice to you, whether you should eat this medicine or not. It also helps in scheduling appointments for you. So Sensely helps in self-care. It basically acts as a virtual nurse for you and it helps you with your medication. It tells you when exactly you should take your medication and whether or not you should eat a certain food. It gives you a lot of clinical advice. So with such revolutions in the field of healthcare, it is clear that despite all the risk and all the so-called threats, artificial intelligence is actually benefiting us in many ways. I'm a total believer that AI will help and improve our situation in each and every domain. So we just need to know how to use AI in the correct manner. Now let's move on and discuss artificial intelligence in decision making. Now AI has played a very important role in decision making, not only in the field of healthcare, but AI has also improved businesses by studying customer needs and evaluating any potential risks that a business might face. A powerful use case of artificial intelligence in decision making is the use of surgical robots that can minimize errors and any variations and will eventually help in increasing the efficiency of your surgeons. One such surgical robot is the Da Vinci. I think it's quite aptly named. Basically, this device allows professional surgeons to implement complex surgeries with better flexibility and control than any other conventional approaches. So the key features of Da Vinci, it helps in aiding surgeons with an advanced set of instruments. It is used in translating the surgeon's hand movements at the console in real time. It produces clear and magnified images of the surgical area. Now guys, don't get confused about such surgical robots. Da Vinci is not a robot that performs the surgery, rather it provides a set of instruments that will help in performing the surgery. we still haven't developed AI robots or AI based systems that are well capable of performing surgeries on their own. There are a couple of robots, but they require human intervention and human assistance. So Da Vinci is basically an instrument that helps in performing surgeries. It provides a set of instruments that can be used in performing complex surgeries. So not only do these robots assist in decision making processes, they also improve the overall performance by increasing the accuracy and the efficiency of the work that is being done. So guys, those were a couple of real world applications about artificial intelligence in healthcare. Now let's move on and understand two of the most important fields, I'd say, in artificial intelligence, which is machine learning and deep learning. So I've been mentioning machine learning and deep learning throughout the video. So for those of you who don't know what machine learning and deep learning is, let's try to understand what exactly they mean. Machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence which provides machines the ability to learn automatically and improve from experience without being explicitly programmed to do so. In simple terms, I'll tell you, machine learning is the process of feeding machines lots and lots of data so that they can interpret, process, and analyze this data in order to produce any actionable insights that benefit an organization. So the main thing in machine learning is you're going to take lots and lots of data and feed it to your machine. And your machine is going to try and understand and interpret this data by using machine learning models and machine learning algorithms. And it's finally going to solve a problem or predict an outcome based on that data. So that's what machine learning is. And if any of you are interested in learning more about machine learning, I'll leave a couple of links in the description box. You all can understand in depth about machine learning. Now let's understand what exactly deep learning is. So guys, deep learning is a more advanced concept of machine learning. So basically, deep learning is a more advanced field of machine learning that uses the concept of neural networks in order to solve more complex problems that require high dimensional data and automated feature extraction. So you can say that deep learning is used to solve more complex and higher dimensional data problems. And the main thing about deep learning is it makes use of neural networks in order to map your input to your output. So basically, in order to solve a problem in deep learning, you make use of neural networks or artificial neural networks to be more precise. The neural networks are basically what the human brain is formed of. So scientists basically replicated our brain in the form of artificial neural networks or also deep learning. So basically, artificial neural networks function exactly how the human brain functions. So you're given a lot of input data, and this data is then transformed, and you apply weights and bias and make the data go through a couple of transformations in order to result in a precise output. If you want to learn more about deep learning, I'll leave a link in the description box. You all can check that out as well. Now let's move on and look at the last topic for today. I'll be discussing how deep learning can be used to predict the stage of breast cancer. So basically, our problem statement is to study a breast cancer dataset and to model a neural network classifier that predicts the stage of breast cancer as either malignant or benign. Malignant means cancerous cells and benign is non-cancerous or normal cells. So basically, we'll be feeding a neural network data set which contains observations and samples of both malignant and benign cells. And so basically, both cancerous and non-cancerous cells are present in this data set, and you're going to use artificial neural networks in order to classify them into two separate classes. One will contain cells that are non-cancerous and the other will contain cells which are cancerous. Now guys, before I get on with the demo, I want to tell you that I'll be using Python in order to solve this problem. So for those of you who don't know Python, I'll leave a couple of links in the description box. Right, we have a lot of content over Python, machine learning and deep learning. So you all can go through that content and maybe then come back to this video. So enough of theory. Now let's look at how you can solve a real world problem by using artificial intelligence concepts such as deep learning. So this is what our code looks like. So I'll be going through this entire code so that you can understand what exactly is happening over here. Now you always begin a project by importing the necessary libraries or packages in Python, right? So we're going to import the NumPy and the pandas library. We're going to import a matplot library as well, and we'll be importing the sklearn and the subprocess and repeat. So basically here what we're doing is we're importing all the necessary packages that are required for this demo. we are going to read our data set. Our data set is stored in this data.csv file, and we are going to input this data set into a variable called data. After that, we're displaying the first few observations in our data set. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is what our data set looks like. We have variables such as ID, diagnosis, fractal, dimensional, worst, unnamed, and so on. Now there are around 32 or 33 variables if I'm not wrong, and all of these variables are known as predictor variables. The variables that are used to predict the outcome are known as predictor variables. Now if you look at this variable diagnosis, it has a value called M. It also has values called B, which are not displayed here because I'm just showing the first few observations in my data set. Now this diagnosis variable is our output or our target variable that we're supposed to predict. So if the value of diagnosis is M, it means that the cancer is malignant or it is a cancerous cell. But if the value of diagnosis is B, it means that it is a benign tumor or a non-cancerous tumor. I hope the difference is clear. Next, we'll perform data cleaning. Data cleaning is one of the most important steps in deep learning and in machine learning. So we need to get rid of any inconsistent values or any values that are missing or any duplicate values so that our output is as precise as possible. So first of all, we are dropping our ID variable, which is not required, and we don't need the ID of a particular cell in order to predict whether a cell is cancerous or not. So we're just performing that sort of cleaning. We're getting rid of any inconsistent data or any unnecessary variables that are not needed. This step is followed by mapping benign to 0 and malignant to 1, meaning that we're changing the value of this diagnosis variable from M and B to 0 and 1. So if the value is benign, then we're going to set it to 0, and if the cancer is malignant, then you're going to get an output of 1. That's exactly what we're doing. We're just changing this into 1 and 0. After that, we're going to scale our data set. Now, scaling our data set is very important in order to avoid any biasness in the values. So there might be some parameters which are in 2 digits and 3 digits, whereas there are some parameters like these. The value of these parameters are in decimal points. They are in 0.001, 0.007. So when there is a different range of values in your input data set, then there is a high chance that your output is going to be very biased. That's exactly why you perform scaling. So we're scaling the data set in this code snippet. After that, we're creating a feature snippet X. So this X feature variable or feature space will contain our data set without the diagnosis variable. That we are getting rid of the diagnosis variable, which is basically our target variable, so that we can predict this variable. We don't want this as our input variable, so we're just getting rid of that. After that, we are going to create a feed forward neural network. Now, these are the necessary packages that are needed. We are using the Keras package in order to build the neural network. Now, a feed forward neural network is basically a neural network in which all the inputs are connected to all the hidden layers. Now, before I continue with what exactly this part of the code means, let me just quickly explain a little bit more about deep learning. Now, in a multi-layer neural network, there can be one input layer, one output layer, and in between you can have a number of hidden layers. So first you have your input layer, then you have a number of hidden layers, and then you have your output layer. Now, input layer is where you feed the input, and the output layer is where you get your output from. Now, in between these input and output layers, you have hidden layers. In these hidden layers, all the processes take place that will help you map your input to your output. So in the hidden layers, you basically assign each input a particular weightage. So some weightage is assigned to each input, and this weightage basically denotes the importance of a particular input variable. So more the weightage of a variable, the more significant that variable is in predicting the output. Apart from assigning weightage, you also perform summation in the hidden layer. Summation is basically the process of multiplying your respective inputs with their weightage and adding all of these products. And after you perform all of this summation and weightage, you then push your input to the activation function. Now, an activation function will basically help you map your input data to your output data. So that's a little bit about neural networks. So guys, I'm not going to explain neural networks in depth because that's not the focus of our session today. However, I will leave a couple of links in the description box. You can go through those videos. So what we're doing is we're importing Keras, and Keras is one of the most important libraries in Python for deep learning. We're going to create a sequential model. Now, sequential is a function defined in the Keras library itself. So we're just going to call out that function. A sequential model is nothing but a model wherein the input is passed from one layer to the other layer, one after the other. It's basically a feed forward neural network. After that, we're going to add your input layer. We're going to use the relu activation function. So similarly, we'll be assigning the activation function for our other hidden layers, and we'll have our output layer, which will basically contain only one node, because our output variable is a single variable that will have a value of either 0 or 1. Also, dropout is basically an optimization technique in deep learning that will help you better predict the output. In this technique, what you do is you randomly drop out a couple of nodes in your neural networks in order to avoid overfitting of your data. So guys, that was us building the model. After that, what we'll do is we'll split our data set into two parts. This process is also known as data splicing. And what you do here is you split your input data into two parts. One is for training and the other is for testing. So here we have assigned a validation split of 0.33, which means that 33% of data will be used for validation or testing, and the remaining 67% of the data will be used for model training. After that, we're implementing the cross-validation technique, and we're going to use a k-fold cross-validation technique. So guys, again, for this, I'll leave a couple of links in the description box so that you can understand what exactly I'm doing here. Now, once you've implemented these techniques, you need to finally run the model. This model.fit will help you fit your data into your neural network. So we're basically passing our training data set into our neural network, and we're assigning epochs of 10 and batch size of 10. Epochs and batch size will basically help you split your data into smaller batches so that accuracy can be calculated on each of these batches. Epochs are basically the number of iterations that you'll run on your model. Once you run this, you will get an output like this. So we basically assigned 10 epochs, meaning that 10 iterations. This is basically training your neural network. Now you can see that in the first epoch, we have an accuracy of 95%. Approximately 95%. Then we have in our second epoch 96%. Similarly, if you keep going down, we have 97, and then in between again it drops down to 96, 97, 98, and 96, 97, and so on. This happens because of the batches. We're using different batches on each of these epochs. So guys, a point to note here is if you want to train your model in a better way, then you can also increase your number of iterations, or you can also increase or decrease your batch size and understand if that helps in any way. Apart from this, we have dropout techniques, which is basically a technique in order to avoid overfitting of your data. If your data overfits into the model, it means that you cannot predict your outcome very precisely. We're finally printing our final accuracy over here. And so our accuracy is around 98.6% for two-fold cross-validation. So guys, 98% is actually a pretty good value. If you wish to improve your model any further, you can perform parameter tuning and optimization techniques such as drop-off method with a more efficient drop value. So guys, that was our entire demo. So we basically built an artificial neural network that helped in classifying a tumor as malignant or benign. We built a model with an accuracy rate of 98%, which is a really good value for a startup, and also told you how to improve the efficiency of the model. So for now, I think this was good enough for our artificial intelligence in healthcare demo. Want any more detailed demos on such topics, please let us know in the comment section. Also, if you have doubts, leave them in the comment section. So guys, that's all for today, and I hope all of you enjoy the video. Until next time, happy learning.
I hope you have enjoyed listening to this video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can comment any of your doubts and queries, and we will reply them at the earliest. Do look out for more videos in our playlist and subscribe to Edureka channel to learn more. Happy learning!